Welcome. I'm really happy to introduce you to Zachary Spicer. He's the head of New College at York University, and he holds this position in the college which focuses on graduate students at York University. And it's a new portfolio. So we're going to start with Zachary telling us a bit about his role and the portfolio and why it was brought forth. So Zachary.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. So, New College had our graduate student community added to it through the college revisioning process, which happened about a year and a half ago. So, basically, what we were doing is taking our four colleges across LAPS and adding a new service profile to each so that we could better serve students as they move through their time here at York. So, for instance, we have a college that focuses on first and second year undergraduate students. Now they're on third and fourth year undergraduate students, and another for international students and racialized students. New College took on the graduate student portfolio, which I think is a big change given that we haven't traditionally had a lot of infrastructure for graduate student support across labs. A lot of that was traditionally happening at the Faculty of Graduate Studies. And so the role that the faculty traditionally played was, of course, on quality control and approval for courses, admittance and placement, things along those lines. But in terms of sort of helping students connect beyond their individual departments and providing career supports and social supports and academic supports, a lot of that traditionally rested with either the Career Center or, of course, with FGS, and they both provide excellent support services still. Our job is to provide some more targeted support for lab students. And given the breadth of programming across the faculty, we have a tall task, especially we have about 2,000 graduate students. So we're doing our best to make sure that we are supporting those as they move through various programs, whether they be 1 year master's degrees, 2 year professional masters, or PhD, or time here as a postdoctoral fellow.
Thank you. So within LAMPS, on the liberal arts side of the house, you have a lot of students entering grad programs, partly out of sheer passion for their fields of study. A lot of people in the liberal arts really enjoy the intellectual challenge, the intellectual stimulation of their fields. And not a few of those enter with the perhaps a long-term hope of becoming an academic one day, being like their professors, living the life of the mind. And in today's world, that can be a precarious dream. But is it an impossible dream? What is your thought?
It is not an impossible dream. I'm in my role at New College. I'm often asked if I can sit down with MA students or undergraduate students who are considering doctoral degrees. I would say that I'm not someone who would dissuade anyone from doing a PhD, but I think it's important to understand that the PhD is changing. The academic job market is changing. We're certainly hiring for new professors. York is, U of T is, schools across North America and beyond are. But we're certainly hiring fewer of them. There's certainly more contract work and things along those lines. So the market is changing a bit, and unfortunately, we're seeing a situation where even stellar, incredibly accomplished PhD students are just not able to find continued and sustained academic work. It's just the reality of the situation. So I often counsel PhD students or prospective PhD students to keep a sort of broader outlook on what meaningful work looks like for them. And I think we can sort of say this kind of looks like a backup plan. Certainly, sure, but also try to think about what really drives them and makes them passionate about being a professor. Because there's when you start thinking about the various tasks that professors do, a university is not the only environment in which to do them. There are many places in which you can do research or teach or discuss ideas. And we're very fortunate that we live in a world where there's number of different creative outlets that we can use. So I think what we really tried to do at New College is to get people to think beyond jobs and think more in terms of meaning and purpose.
Great, thanks. So if you take a look at the master's programs and the PhD programs, I know historically the training there was training to be an academic, and the courses and the coursework and the structure of these programs was to move you forward in that pathway. But what other ways can students engage with the opportunities within their graduate programs to perhaps widen the transferability of their experience beyond academia? What could they be doing in their courses? What could they be doing for their MRPs or dissertations that might open up doors to pathways beyond academia?
I think one important thing to initially is to sort of work back a bit and sort of think about, if I were to pursue an academic job, what would I need to get there, right? And to sort of back it up and say, well, what courses would I need? How would I like to structure my thesis and things along those lines? And even if you are pursuing an academic job, there is a bit of tailoring based upon where certain disciplines are going and the sort of emphasis that certain disciplines are placing on certain methodologies or certain research topics over others. So there is a bit of framing needed in that regard as well. But I would say one of the most important things is to explore non-academic careers from the very beginning. And so what that means is trying to find people who have cool and interesting jobs, who have backgrounds like you, and try to explore that more. I think that there's a number of outlets here at York that you can work with to try to connect you with alumni or with people in certain sectors or in different industries that may interest you. And if you find something there, it is a bit of a work back plan as well. Say, well, what do I need to get there? Maybe that is taking courses outside of your own department or doing a professional designation or doing an internship or something along those lines that could provide you with a entry point into a different sector or a different industry. And this is one of the times where I would say to reach out beyond faculty members too. And I'm a faculty member, so I certainly won't say that, we're bad people to talk to. I think a lot of us now are very open to the idea that a lot of our PhD students are looking for jobs outside of academia, but oftentimes we are people who spend a lot of our working life and professional life in academia, and we may not have the same sort of grounding and footing in terms of non-academic work. So reaching out to your professors is certainly helpful, but finding people outside of academia who you can talk to and think about what would make you happy, right? What would allow you to explore your passions and to be creative and be insightful, and what would get you up every single morning excited and joyful about the work you're doing and what you're putting out to the world. So thinking about reaching out and making connections, I think, is crucially important.
Absolutely. For those students who are in the master's program, I know when I went into my master's, I was at a very busy time in my life. And I landed there, I hate to admit it, as a little bit of an unemployment avoidance strategy. I was offered a scholarship. I took the scholarship. I had the encouragement of my professors, so I followed that route. What would you say to master students who land up in programs? Yes, they enjoy their fields, and this is a wonderful opportunity to have that sort of in-depth experience. But then it occurs to them, what am I going to do with a master's? What is the value of the master's if I'm not interested in pursuing a PhD?
Mhm. Well, I think there's a lot of value in that. We have a lot of professional master's programs now that can lead you towards a PhD if you would like, but also provide a lot of professional training that I think would be attractive to people in certain industries. A master's degree, I think, is particularly useful to allow you to add some depth to the undergraduate breadth. Right. So when you're an undergraduate student, you get the pleasure of working at a bunch of electives and exploring a bunch of different topics and different classes and different faculties sometimes, which is fantastic. The master's really lets you can drill down a bit, right? And I think that the way that we design graduate education, whether it's at the master's level or the PhD level, that is going to be shifting and changing a bit. And I can already see that with certain programs that were traditionally MA programs that were originally conceived 20 years ago, perhaps, as a pathway towards the PhD. Some of those I think are professionalizing a bit. Some of the content is changing a bit. So I think that that shift is naturally happening with some of the programs. But really, I think the benefit of doing an MA is really that you get to deeply explore something that you are really interested in. So you can pick a, a research topic, you can do a thesis on it, an MRP, major paper, whatever it might be. But you can take courses that are a little more focused within a particular area, which to me delivers incredible value.
Now, this is putting you on the spot a little bit, but can you recall any graduate students that may have crossed your path that you thought, you know what, they're doing this right. This is a good role model for other graduate students on how to branch out beyond academia. Do any come to mind for you?
Um, a, a few students, which I'm happy to talk about. I think the ones that really come to mind are the ones that have the right mindset going in. I see a lot of students who, when the sort of the realization of the job market kind of comes into play, it's almost like the world's kind of crashing down a bit. It's if they're sort of like they're moving forward and they can't envision a life outside of being a professor, and they just can't see what the world is like without doing this, right? And that in a way that academia becomes more of this kind of closed off club that they feel excluded from, and you can see the bitterness and the anger kind of generating a bit. And I understand that that's totally natural, but I think a lot of people who come in with an open mind say, "Well, what are my goals with doing this?" One is intellectual is the intellectual journey that I want to go on, right? And so this is something that I want to do, that I'm passionate about. I want to learn more. I want to write more. I want to create, which is absolutely great. But also thinking about I'm going to use this time to really think about what motivates me and drives me, and I'm gonna think about different ways to pursue a career afterwards. So what that looks like in practice um, are students who have explored careers broadly, who have reached out on to different folks in different sectors and have asked them to go to coffee or jump on a quick 15-minute Zoom call, or have taken the time to go through LinkedIn profiles and things along those lines. I had a student a couple of years ago. He spent an entire afternoon going through LinkedIn and finding people who have a career path that he really admired. And he said, "Well, LinkedIn's great. I can track where they started from and I could see what they did." And he started to reach out to people and he was exploring some things. And some things he said, like, I met with this person. I don't really find their job all that interesting. I'm like, that's fine. That's their job. It doesn't have to be yours, right? I think keeping an open mind is the healthiest thing, and just realizing that the program doesn't owe you a life. It's giving you the opportunity to build one for yourself. And so, I don't want people to sort of get resentful about their programs or the school or anything along those lines. But just to sort of think about, we're giving you an opportunity here to sort of think about your mission and purpose, and it is on you to sort of go through and explore that more. I think if you come in with that mindset, you're going to be successful.
Good, good. So think again about some of the students that perhaps have stayed in touch with you over the years after they've graduated and moved on. What sort of positions are PhDs and LAMPS landing up with?
A wide variety of them. We've done a couple of career events through New College. I'm always astounded at the wide variety of careers. People who, gone into the medical field and are working with major drug corporations, and people who are working in the private sector and management consulting and equity financing, and people who work for not-for-profit organizations. One of our students from my program, she works with a not for profit that promotes cycling and bike safety. She's incredibly happy because it's something that she's passionate about, and she can see the difference that she's making in people's lives every single day. And I think that's fantastic. A lot of the students in my area, they work for government at various levels, right? Provincial government, federal government, local government. So there's so many options out there, and I think that when you begin to think about what a PhD really gives you, I think it's hard to sort of think beyond the subject matter, but really what it's giving you is the ability to do top-notch quality research and to think critically and to sort of think at like a systems level and think about the way that pieces connect and to see the big picture. These are incredibly valuable skills for several sectors, private, public, not-for-profit, you name it. So I think the sky's the limit. One of the things that always surprises me is that the more education that people get, they tend to see fewer places for them to fit in. But the reality is that they can move across various sectors in ways that other people can't. More education is sometimes seen as limiting. Really, it's freeing. It frees you from a lot of the constraints from people who don't have PhDs and master's degrees and law degrees and MBAs. They simply don't have. It creates opportunity rather than sort of narrows you down.
What sort of misconceptions do you think employers might have about somebody with a PhD who is applying for a position in their organization? And what advice would you give students to deal with that?
The big one that I often encounter is that people think that they're just waiting for the next faculty job to open and they're going to be out the door, and that a lot of employers think that, well, we're just sort of a landing spot and you're just going to you're keeping an eye open until the next contract job or something opens and you're gone, right? Or that their head's not really in the game, that they really want to be a professor and that they're just waiting it out. And to me, I think that's a misconception. I think certain employers also think that, well, this person with a PhD is going to come in and think that they run the place and that what they think is the right way of doing things and that their thinking is going to be challenged and everything else. The reality, I think, though, is that people with PhDs are natural learners. They are curious about things, and that the one thing that they absolutely know is the limits of their own skills and knowledge, right? Because when you're out there and you're presenting research and designing it, you're very clear to state what you don't know, and so people with PhDs, I think, are quick learners, but they're also quick to acknowledge the limits of their own skills first. So they're not coming in to take over, that is for sure. Um, Other thing is that I think that people with PhDs almost have to sort of emphasize that they are looking to make a clean break from academia sometimes, right? That and it's tough to say that because maybe you're sort of thinking maybe I'll teach a class here or there or something along those lines, right? But I think that when you do some of that pre-work around networking and doing informational interviews and trying to really explore non-academic careers, you're signaling that you're serious about this. You're not just throwing a resume in and seeing what happens. That you're doing the work that you've been designed to do as a PhD student, as doing the research before you jump in, right? So I think that if you can do that, you are demonstrating that you're sincere about trying to find a job within a certain field.
Terrific. What would you advise a graduate student, here I'm thinking specifically about a PhD, um, who doesn't feel their supervisor would be very open to having conversations about careers outside of academia and may not even want to supervise them if they knew that this person was not committed
Mhm.
to following an academic career?
Yes, we do encounter that. That does happen. I think a lot of faculty members who have kind of gotten into academia the last maybe 10 to 15 years are a little more aware of the challenges out there. With that said, I think almost all of our faculty members understand that it's a numbers game at this point. The job market has substantially shifted, even though those who were hired in the 70s and 80s, they've served on hiring committees over the last 10 years. They see the quality of applicants. They see that they have one job and 200 applications will come in, and you can't even shortlist top-notch candidates. They understand that the competition is tough. So I think that even professors who understand this, sometimes they do want to supervise people who are going to wind up in academia, right? There is this sort of notion that one part of your job is to train the next generation, right? And to see your academic children, so to speak, placed at schools across the country, right? That is still an idea that is relevant to a lot of faculty members, and I totally get that. But with that said, I think we need to really get across the point that even if you are training non-academics in a PhD program, there's still tremendous value in that. But if your supervisor is one of those people who's a little bit closed-minded to that, recognize that there are places like the Career Center, there are places like New College, there are advisors in the Faculty of Graduate Studies, there are faculty members outside of your own department who are willing to talk with you and sit down with you and game plan something with you. We have tools like LinkedIn, which are powerful connectors who can put you in touch with people outside of campus who may have no connection to your professor or York or anything else. So you have the tools at your disposal to explore what meaningful work looks like for you. And if at the end of the day, if your supervisor doesn't appreciate that or doesn't approve, it doesn't matter because it's not their career. They don't need to know what you're up to, right? They're interested in whether you are progressing in your program or not. And if you are, what you do with your own time doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter to them. So I would say if you think that they are not open to it, you don't need to have those conversations with them. Thankfully, there are a lot of places where you can talk about this stuff still.
Right. So New College, if a student is interested, a graduate student is interested in finding out more about New College, how would they get in touch? What are they looking for? What can they expect when they go over there? What is it that you have to offer and how do we access that?
Yes, absolutely. So all of our information is on the Labs College's website. So we operate as a team with our other Labs Colleges. We're located in Atkinson College, and if you come and visit us, you'll find our offices with our student engagement coordinators who are always around to help you if you have questions about your program, non-academic careers, whatever it else might be. We have a graduate lounge where you can study, relax, connect with other students, and we have a series of events throughout the year. Social events. We have a monthly event called Grad Cafe, where you can get together with other graduate students and talk about your research or careers or any particular challenges that you may be having with supervisors or anything else. We have career events. We actually have one coming up in April with the Career Center, where we're also doing headshots for LinkedIn and for research websites. We have an event coming up at the end of April around a book called Work Your Career, which helps students break down and inventory the skills that they've gained through various PhD programs and to rebuild them to sort of demonstrate value to non-academic employers. We have grad choir. We have a choir that students sing in every single month as
Fabulous.
a way to de-stress. So all to say, we have a lot of avenues to support you in your career endeavors and your academic endeavors, or to connect you with others so you can socialize and build connections and talk about what the future looks like, or even make academic connections and publish work together. So we're here to connect people and we're here to support students. And it really all starts by just checking us out on Instagram, our website, or just dropping by the college.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Zachary.
Not a problem at all.